this is Mang from Design Plus Code. Today I want to show you how to create this website using React, but also my entire workflow in creating DesignCode 3. So this website is built using a bunch of new techniques such as, for example, the framework React, but also Gatsby as the template. And then we use style components, and we're gonna make everything adaptive. And we're gonna learn also some data that goes into making this website. So for example, we're gonna also learn some animations. So as you can see in this wave here, we're gonna learn some hovering techniques using CSS and CSS Grid for layout. And then we're gonna make sure that each component is reusable, so that while building this website and while recreating new pages, it's not gonna be a lot of work. So as you can see, this is a full-blown website, and all of these techniques can be applied to your own project, meaning that you can have your own backgrounds, your own logo, your own menu, titles and text. Using the techniques, you can rearrange the layout the way you wish, and having your own colors, you can decide to move these elements differently, have a different kind of animations. You can decide to not have the wave, or you can have something like more like angular, or you can use a gradient in the background, different icons. So we're gonna cover a lot of stuff in this course. The other thing is, I want to share with you the Figma file. And this is where I design every single component of the design. And you're gonna be able to use this as a reference for building the website itself. And what I try to do as a designer is to be consistent between the design tool and the React component. So for example, if the name is called Hero and has, these layouts that attach to each other in this fashion, well, it should be reflected in the code as well. Now, I want you as a designer to feel free to use your own design, to use your own artworks and your own titles, to set up your own sizes for these cards, for example, and to have your own sort of layout, or, just using your own background, having different heights can drastically change the whole personality of your website, as well as having these floating elements, these cells with different icons and text. So what I want to encourage you to do is to really create your own product page, or your own portfolio, or your own blog. But if not, you can always follow exactly what I have using the same images, the same resources. I'm gonna share all of that stuff so that you can follow step by step. And this is not gonna be scripted. I'm gonna try to make it as organic as possible so that you can follow along with me. Are you excited? Yeah. So first of all, let's start talking about what is React. So React is the most popular JavaScript framework, and it's completely component based. So as I mentioned, it's very similar to the way that you use the different components in Figma or the symbols in Sketch, so that these elements are reusable by just changing the overrides. So if you want a different text, but using the same component, you can do so. And if you want to change one component, you go to the master component, and then you would change one of them that would be reflected in all of the ones that you have changed. And this can extend to the header, the button, different elements in your UI. And you can nest them as well. So for example, the entire page can be a component, or this entire thing can be a component. And inside this component, you have maybe the title component, the text component, the button component, the logos component. And inside the logos component, you can have maybe a single logo component. So ultimately, what I'm describing right now is really what a design system is all about. It's all about creating reusable elements that can be translated into the final product and then it can be shared across your team so that anyone can contribute to these library of UI components in order to create something that is powerful, maintainable, and flexible. So you'll never get stuck as a designer by the limitations of your design tool. And instead, you will invent new ways that your product is going to be designed. Now let's talk about the workflow. Of course, we're going to use React. And React is really popular right now. It has a ton of documentations and tutorials out there. And if you definitely want to learn more about the theory, then of course head to React. There's a ton of stuff that you can read. But if not, this really is a course for people who want to learn by doing something, by creating something. We're also going to use Gatsby. And Gatsby is basically just a replacement of Create React App, which is a template. Create React App has very basic stuff in it, but Gatsby has a lot more stuff. So for example, Gatsby can allow you to route to multiple pages. It has a bunch of starters, a lot of different themes that you want to use. But for example, the default theme already has the router included. It has GraphQL, which is a database included. It has Helmet, which is for SEO purposes. And then it's really well presented. It's really powerful. It can cache your content. And that's why I'm using this for this course. Okay, so the first thing we want to do to get started at building our website is to install Node. Let's head to Homebrew, which is brew.sh, and copy this command into the terminal. Now the terminal is where you want to start installing anything, any library that is more on an OS level, and such as React, for example, or Node or Gatsby. But first of all, we're gonna need Brew, which is a package manager for your Mac. So we're gonna paste this command, enter your password, and then, after a few minutes, it's gonna install Homebrew. Now we're gonna install Node by doing brew install Node. Obviously for me, it's already installed. Now, if none of this works, you can always go to nodejs.org and install it using this link. Okay, so let's head back to terminal, and we're gonna install Gatsby. We're gonna do npm install -- global so that we can use that anywhere, and then Gatsby -CLI. And this will install Gatsby for us. So after this, we're ready to create our project. Usually what you want to do is to go to your documents, and you can press tab to finish, let's say, a word that you're typing in terminal. You can also do ls to see what kind of folders that you have in this specific spot. And so we're ready to create a new app. We're gonna type Gatsby new, let's say my app, and then enter. It's gonna take a few minutes to create it. After it's done, you can just go to cd my-app. Again, you can press tab to finish. And then in that directory, we can start our server by typing Gatsby develop. This is gonna start our environment so that we can start testing the website using the browser and see how it's gonna look like while we edit the code. If you go to your Chrome browser or your Safari browser and you type localhost colon 8000, it's gonna give you this website, and this is your first website, right? That's kind of exciting. But of course, we want to be able to put our own design into this website. Right now, it's kind of bare, it only has a few pages, but you can see that the router is already working. So basically what we need to do is to go to get Visual Studio Code, which is my favorite code editor. So go to code.visualstudio.com. And here you can click on download, you can install it, and then you can open it. If you open it, it's gonna look like this, or you're gonna have like a welcome screen that looks like this. And you can basically do Command O, and then you can open to your document the folder that you have just created for your app. So in this case, it's my app, and I'm gonna open that. And voila, this is the source files for my project. Now, what I like to do is to put this in full screen and then go back to this and drag this right next to my Visual Studio Code so that I have my website directly next to my code editor. Now, I want to explain a little bit what's going on in the files. We have a lot of files and it can be a bit overwhelming for someone who's never done this before, right? So we have a bunch of config file and really you don't really need to look too much at them. They're fairly simple, but really the meat of our project is inside the folder called SRC for source. And in this folder, we have 3 subfolders. One of them is components, and this is where we're gonna start creating those components. And we have the layout, which is more like the global stuff, global styles and global page. And then we have different pages, which can be seen here. As you can see, if I click this, it's gonna go to this page. The index page is the main page, which is this one. And the 404 is basically a page where if you type something and it doesn't exist, it's gonna go to the 404 page. Okay, so let's head back to the main page, which is this one. And we're gonna try something very simple. We're gonna change the metadata, which is basically the title of our site. We're gonna go to the Gatsby config file, and you can see here it already has the site metadata, which is provided by the Gatsby template. And we can just change the title to the title of our web page. So in this case, for me, it's Design plus Code 3. Now for you, it can be anything else. And you can see that by doing so, it already changed my header as well as the title of my page. Okay, so let's talk about the themes. Obviously, as a designer, I know you get excited about the colors of your Visual Studio Code. And I get that. A lot of people ask me about that. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. So let's go to extensions, the 4th icon here, and we're gonna search for material. And the one that you're looking for is the material theme. You wanna click install. And then after you click install, it's gonna ask you to reload it. So you click on reload. And then it's gonna reload Visual Studio Code, and voila, you're done. You have it installed. But at this point, what you need to do is to activate the theme. So you're gonna want to do Shift, Command, and P to activate the quick open. And then you want to search for theme, for example. And the option that you're looking for is called Preferences, Color Theme. You click on it, and you're looking for the material theme Pale Night, which you click on it, and then it should be applying the theme for your Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let's head back to our documents, which is called the Explorer, and this is where you want to be always. I want to discuss a little bit about the keyboard shortcuts because they're gonna make your workflow a lot faster. The first thing obviously is Command O, which open, and then Command B, which allows you to gain a lot of real estate here, but it's gonna hide the navigation on the left side. The other thing I wanna show you is also the ability to set the text so that it wraps the different lines. So you're gonna use Option Z to enable that so that you can always see all the text regardless of how much real estate that you have in this spot here. And then we also have the integrated terminal, which is super useful. In order to do that, you're gonna want to use Control and then the tilde key, which is right to the left of the number 1, and it's gonna open the integrated terminal. And so this is gonna replace the terminal that you have here. But since we already have our website running right now, we don't really want to disrupt that right now. But I wanted to show you that it is possible to use terminal here and not have to use this at all. And you can have multiple terminals open at the same time, which is really useful for having one that is running the website and the other one for like installing new libraries, for example. Okay, so at this point we can just hide this for now and start editing the code. Start customizing our website. The first thing we want to do, I guess, is to start, changing the text right here. So for example, I'm gonna put learn to design and code React apps, for example. And if I press save, which is Command S for save, then it's gonna reflect automatically to the preview on the right side. Now let's change also the text. So as soon as you save, it's gonna be reflected yet again. We can delete the third line, the second paragraph. You just double click the entire line and it should look like this, and you press delete. In React, it is really important to always open and close your tags. So H1 open and then slash H1 means close. The same with paragraph as well as the link. The other thing I want to discuss is that this is just basic HTML. If you know a little bit about HTML, these are just very basic tags for HTML. So H1 for heading, and you have H2, H3, H4, P for paragraph, and then link. This is a component that has been created and provided in Gatsby. I'm going to explain a little bit that later. And then we have the very popular div, which is used for everything. It's basically a general purpose container for different elements in your HTML. And you use div for pretty much anything that is not super descriptive, such as a heading or paragraph or a button, for example. Again, as soon as you save, it's always there. It's in real time. That's the beauty of web development. It makes it easy to access from anywhere on any device, and that's super useful. But the thing is, you want to be careful again with the tags. So if you, for example, didn't close your tag properly, what's cool about Visual Studio Code and also React is that it's going to give you these visual cues that there's an error in your system somewhere. And so, if you save this, for example, it's going to say fail to compile. And it's even going to give you the line number that tells you where is it in my code that is breaking. And usually it's pretty accurate. In this case, it's just telling me that, I did not properly close my link tag, so I might want to do that. And when I save, it's all good to go. So before we finish, I want to discuss a little bit about Git, because as a designer or developer, this is super important to always have a version system for anything that you create or edit. So the first thing you want to do is to go to github.com. And if you don't have an account, you should definitely create one. And once you have an account, you can obviously log in. And then you want to create a new repository right here. So click on new and then give it a name. So for example, my React app or my app, but in my case, I always use that name. So I'm going to use my React app. And you're gonna make it public or private, depending on what kind of plan that you have with GitHub, but you can make it public, it's no problem. And then you create it. Once you create it, it's gonna give you a bunch of instructions to set it into your own local project. So what I need to do here is open the terminal. So Control and then tilde, and then I'm gonna just copy and paste all of this code, and paste it here. Enter. So once that's done, then your project is basically ready to go on this specific Git repository. And if you refresh that, you can see that you have all the files that are inside your project here. And if you want to make a change, for example, so watch the video and I save it, I can see that there's a change made, and I can commit this change by going to Command Shift and P, again a quick open, and then you type commit, select commit all, and then put the message. For example, watch button text. And then it's going to commit it. You click here at the very bottom left to send it and push it to the cloud. And then you go to GitHub, you refresh it, and you can see that you have a version history of all the commits that you have done so far. And of course, if this doesn't work for you, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to use Git. I just wanted to show you that this is a possibility. This is something that can be very powerful for you to learn as a designer. So let's get back to our project and continue. So up until now, we've learned a lot of stuff already. I mean, we've learned how to set up our own local environment for creating a React app, but also use a template that is super powerful called Gatsby. We have routing, we have SEO, we have GraphQL already set up, and then we also install a bunch of package managers such as the Node one and the Homebrew, and then we learn how to use Git on a basic level. We also learn how to deal with errors and how to deal with some basic tags for HTML. We've learned a lot of stuff. So we can use that already to build our own app or own website. But if you stay with me, we're gonna learn a lot more about styling your website using CSS, grids, and all that stuff. So let's get started for real and start building our own layout, our own design. If you'd like to watch more videos like this around design tools and coding for designers and beginners, please subscribe to this channel.